It's Power Hour LSU.
To the field, terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter is the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter is the power. LSU with Carter.
Let's go, y'all. I am so fired up. LSU is finally getting to work on the college football transfer portal, catching up with some of the other SEC schools that have done some really good job on the recruiting trail. I want to start off here with Jayce Brown, who just committed, the wide receiver out of Kansas State. This is Zach Nagy, pretty much just recapping basically everything. We have some more advanced stats that we'll get to on our Twitter page here in just a second. But Jayce Brown, this just happened, and I've not really been able to sit down and watch him. I have also been a guy that has watched a decent amount of Avery Johnson, and man, this guy can flat out play. He is super explosive. And the one thing that I will include about Jayce Brown and the other wide receivers that LSU has already brought in is that the yard per catch numbers is what really stands out. Okay. What's not included here is Jayce Brown averaged well over 17 yards per catch. And you take a look at the other wide receivers that LSU has brought in. Trey Brown, the transfer coming in from Old Dominion, he also is over 17 yards per catch. And Jackson Harris is also over that mark as well. So big shout out. Jayce Brown does commit to LSU. And obviously the big concern for all of us, and we'll get to it a little bit later, where are the offensive linemen? We'll discuss that coming up. But we want to continue here with another big-time wide receiver commitment. Of course, we already talked about Trey Brown a little bit earlier, but now we get to Stefilin Green. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. One quick note on Green. We talked about him in our film studies earlier this year when LSU played Clemson. He was actually the most productive defensive lineman on the field that day. That ended up being the best game of his career. The Clemson transfer defensive tackle was really well graded. Peter Woods has a good chance of going into the first round. And look, you look at a guy like Stefilin Green. You look at the LSU defensive tackle room. Can you make a case that Stefilin Green is already the best defensive tackle on LSU's roster? You can make that case. So this, to me, is a pretty big upgrade for a room that I think could have been better than what it was this year. And it is a nice pickup, obviously, from the state of South Carolina. We already know Sterling Lucas came over from the University of South Carolina. But still, really good stuff right here by LSU, bringing in a much-needed defensive tackle. And I'll be honest, there is a pretty decent shot that Stefilin Green is the best transfer portal pickup that they have brought in thus far this cycle. Okay? Obviously, there are some holes in this game. Obviously, when he comes over from Clemson, no matter how good we do in the transfer portal, it's going to be really hard for our defensive line to be as good as the defensive line that he played with at Clemson. And of course, the level of competition will go up from the ACC now to the SEC. So we will be asking a lot more out of him. He's not the biggest guy, but he is obviously relatively big. All defensive tackles are big. I would put him bigger than a guy like Ahmad Bro, obviously, but still at 6'2", 290, that's plenty enough size to be a DT in the SEC. And then the guy who is the thumbnail image, the guy that we have already done a pretty big film study on, is Ty Benfield. We broke down pretty much every snap that you could have watched in the Notre Dame game that Benfield was heavily involved with. You could check that film study out after this live stream is over. And if you're listening to this via iTunes or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. And obviously, Stefilin Green is a big position of need, but defensive backs rarely leave the field. Now, of course, many are going to compare Benfield to the A.J. Halsey transfer that they brought in from last year. I'm here to tell you that I would be shocked if Benfield is as good as A.J. Halsey. But the truth is, Benfield and his play style probably more closely resembles that of a Tamarcus Cooley. They wear the same jersey number. That's part of it, but their builds are the same. Their play style is the same. Benfield at Boise State did play a lot closer to the line of scrimmage as, a nickel, if you will, in particular versus teams that like to run versus Boise State, like Notre Dame. And look, are there some holes in this game? Yes, there's holes in everyone's game in the transfer portal, especially the players that have already done deep dives on. That includes Benfield. He to me is a good SEC level caliber starting safety. I would also not put it past LSU not making him a safety, but using him in that coveted star role. Here is the one thing that you are going to love about Ty more than anyone else is that this dude is so unfreaking believably physical. Sometimes to his own detriment, right? He can be overly physical or too excited to go in there and make a tackle, and he'll come in a little too wild and miss that tackle. There are also instances where he'll just get flat out run over because he's not the biggest guy in the world. But man, if you love hard-nosed, blue-collar, play your ass off on every snap type of players, I saw this very thing with Benfield. And I watched mostly the 3 big games that he played this year versus USF in the season opener, Washington in the season closer, and in the game versus Notre Dame. And we'll talk more about this in the Patreon and in the Discord. The truth is, his bowl game was not great. It was atrocious, to be honest. The Notre Dame game was fantastic. The USF game, I thought, was also very good. You know who else ended his career and his last stop with his worst game as a collegiate? That was A.J. Halsey. He had a bad game on the road versus BYU in his final game. So, you do think about, hey, am I already thinking about the next step? Am I already thinking about the transfer portal and all of it? So I am a huge fan of Ty. Okay, and here is a photo. You've already seen the thumbnail image. This is him and Lane Kiffin. So there you go. Now, we did the film study on Trey Brown. We haven't talked a whole lot about Malachi Thomas. He has also committed the tight end. We didn't go live yesterday. We just did a film study. And Malachi Thomas, to me, is a very good tight end. Pitt was really sad to see him go. He was going to be their starting tight end. He himself had a really good bowl game. You see in the left slide here, his big game was against Syracuse. He had some really good moments in that blowout win versus Ricky Collins and the Orangemen. Pretty decent blocker. I thought I was going to be disappointed in that department. But overall, this is a nice piece to go along with Jayce Green in the tight end room for LSU. And then we get into some of the running back pickups. We'll talk about the one from yesterday, and we'll get to the other one that just happened a few hours ago. Rayson Guillory, okay, from Utah coming over. He played at Aledo High School, which has produced some pretty good recruits. Devon Keys, obviously the most recent one over here with the LSU. This is a running back room that needs depth. All right. So, we've hinted at a few players that I thought were going to commit. So I talked about the visit. I think it was when we did a stream last Friday, or it was last Thursday, with Stefilin Green. I went out of my way to bring him up in like the opening 5 minutes because I was that excited about him. I thought that was someone that LSU should go get. And right now, he's probably my best player that LSU has brought in. And maybe the most important player that LSU has brought in up to this point. I want to look at each and every one of you in the face right now and understand that this roster needs numbers, okay? You are seeing a lot of players coming in through the transfer portal. And the question, because you guys don't necessarily come here for news. You come here for analysis. You come here because I'm the film guy. You come here because I've been covering LSU football for so long, and providing perspective, good and bad, with LSU players. And I try to be as fearless and honest as I possibly can, okay? Not every one of these players are going to be good. All right. Roughly 50% of the portal guys that come in are good players. I would say probably 2 to 3 out of every class are exceptional players. But at this point, LSU just needs numbers. We need as many players as we possibly can to come on in. And I do think, even if you look at a guy like Guillory in particular, 1 carry for 4 yards as a true freshman in a mop-up duty FCS game, it does concern you. Well, the guy that we were hung up on outside of Trinidad Chambliss over the past couple of weeks has been Quan Lacey. Quan Lacey had almost 0 production at Missouri before he came over to Ole Miss. Now, he had some, and obviously he is a clearly better prospect when he was coming over than Guillory was, but it's important to point out that running back does tend to be a little bit more plug and play. And that leads us into the next topic, and we'll get into a few of the other transfers. There's so many. I think we covered everyone except 2 or 3 of them. But I want to get into some other large-scale things before we get to your comments. Obviously, hit that like button, subscribe, ring the bell. I want to be one of the biggest LSU YouTubers and SEC YouTubers on the planet Earth. Make sure you check out Power Hour SEC. And if you are an NFL fan, check out Power Hour NFL. Okay? Now, let's talk about Ole Miss. Obviously, I had some back and forths with some Ole Miss writers, a national writer who I respect, in Stephen Godfrey. He and I had a little back and forth over this happening at Ole Miss and this person saying that and all of it. It's a pretty crazy fight going on. The one thing that we must include in all of this, and it would be silly to talk about this otherwise, normally results of games do not have as big of an influence on recruiting as we would like. Normally in recruiting, you hear fans talk about, oh man, so-and-so recruit came to Baton Rouge and they had to witness Marcel Reed running all over us. And they had to witness Jalen Milroe dropping his you-know-what on us multiple times and all of that. And we say that all the time, and it normally doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. Recruits are sometimes encouraged by that because they're like, hell, I get immediate playing time. I'm ready to go. I am ready to go. All right? It's just the truth. But there will be no game I can remember that had such a heavy impact on recruiting for 2 schools as the Georgia game did for LSU and Ole Miss. Because what that did was, right now, Ole Miss is getting ready to play in a college football playoff game in 2 days. The game is on Thursday between Ole Miss and Miami. And they're having to make these big transfer portal decisions. It heavily affected so many different things regarding Ole Miss and LSU. It's a lot easier to fight your way back into a school when you're winning. And there was optimism with LSU regarding Quan Lacey and regarding Trinidad Chambliss. And right now, it is official. If Chambliss is granted another year of eligibility, he is going back to Ole Miss. If Quan Lacey, well, he could still back out of this deal, but he himself has also signed with Ole Miss. Now, I do believe there is a rule that 5 days after your final game, you are allowed to go into the portal because, of course, every team is, the 4 teams are still playing and the portal is going on right now. So a lot can change. We have seen crazier things happen. But, you know, this result did hold some things up. And it does make you wonder how many different Ole Miss players were thinking about coming to LSU. And now the Ole Miss boosters are more gung-ho about, hey, we are ready to pour more money into the program to keep these guys. I love this feeling. You also get more money for staying in the playoffs just in general. It is one of those things where you are very worried about the results of Ole Miss. I will also say this to Ole Miss fans. Go to hell. Go to hell, Ole Miss. I hate you. I hate you so much. And it's funny because Ole Miss has done a good job, of course, picking up some of our guys from the transfer portal. They got another one today in Carius Kern. who I knew briefly. And obviously, he's now in Oxford. There's a whole story regarding that. I know a decent amount of what happened there, but we can get into all of that. Obviously, he's not here anymore, so I don't think a lot of you want to hear about him at all. All right. Now, we have a pretty big show prepped up for you today. I am on the third day of a 3-day fast, so I am hungry AF, but there is nothing that satisfies my appetite more than each and every one of you hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell and letting the people know that there is no one that's going to give you the LSU analysis like I do. There's nobody. I'm going to keep bringing those film studies. I love doing the YouTube film studies. They are absolutely fantastic. And also, I want to shout out everyone else that's doing great LSU reporting. I talked to Preston Guy for 30 minutes today. Blake Ruffino, obviously my really good friend. Shay Dixon, everyone's doing good stuff. Okay. So understand, it is a busy time. I've never been busier as an LSU YouTuber. Let's get to your comments. Give me your best. Let's go. I don't care. Before I look at any of these comments, and look, we got 248 of you here on a glorious Tuesday. That is absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. Okay. Okay. I just want you right now, wherever you are, just say it with all of your chest. If your kids are standing next to you and you're afraid of scaring them, scare them anyway. Because scare money don't make money. And a failed Florida coach once said that. My left headphone just went out. Actually, it went out at like right when I was about to get live. It went in and out. But here's what I want you to do right now. Just on the count of 3, give me your best. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Let's go to the comments. And the first one I put on the screen, literally, I just clicked whichever one was the newest one. And it's the biggest pause of all time. It is the biggest, holy crap. Did you really type that into the freaking YouTube type search thingy? Are you kidding me? With the Canelo Alvarez profile photo, why would you even think that was PG rated? We'll talk about Sam Levitt coming up. We had Leslie commenting in here for a long time. LSU could sign Max Johnson and Jake Johnson this year. I wouldn't go that far. Let's go to normal guy. I like the defensive tackle. It's out of Tony, who's at every single live stream. Normal guys in here. Keep up the good work, Carter. Enjoy the content. I enjoy you. Say hi to Carl. Christopher. I'm trying to grow the Facebook. Christopher, please share the Facebook into all the different Facebook search bar thingies and search bar groups. Okay. I want to talk about the negatives. And there are negatives. There's a lot of positives. The first negative is that Sam Levitt has not signed. I'll talk a little bit about the visit. I even got photos from the visit, sent to me. And Joe Cox, who is the tight ends coach who played college quarterback, which I do think it's important. Charlie Weiss was at the visit, and obviously Charlie Weiss is going back and forth. And, basically the offensive brass was there. And, I know a lot of you don't feel some type of way about the supper club. I've never eaten at the supper club. I won't even say if it's good or bad. I need to go. I don't know if I have supper club money. But I do think when it comes to the supper club or Canes or wherever you want to take them, the key thing on these visits, especially with a guy like Sam Levitt, it's so important to be direct. Because I do think now with money being involved, the fake stuff can just be cut through a little bit more. It's not as hunky-dory as it used to be. What's the number I want to sign if we reach this number? Okay. So when it comes to Sam Levitt, this is what I understand regarding him. So Kentucky was a big school, and Kentucky has NIL. They are ready to see and give a young coach a quarterback that they desperately need. Okay. And they decided to go with Kenny Minchey. All right. So Kenny Minchey was a Notre Dame backup who's good. All right, he's not played a whole lot, but he's got some talent. He commits to Nebraska, backs out of Nebraska, and goes to Kentucky. So what does that tell you? That Kentucky's got money. Kentucky's got money. They were willing to pay up for Sam Levitt, and they moved on. And then they outbid Nebraska, which also has a decent fan base and decent money, to get Minchie to Lexington. Okay? Could it be that Kenny wanted to go to Lexington the entire time, and Sam Levitt is now more focused on LSU and maybe a few other schools who we'll get to in just a moment? Yeah, that could be the case. It very well could be the case. All right. But the truth here is we are now waiting for Sam Levitt's decision. And it could be that he's already signed. After the Supper Club dinner, obviously you feel great about it. After every visit, you feel great about it. But you got to remember, Brendan Sorsby, all of this went down during his visit in Baton Rouge. Now, my understanding is Lane loved Sorsby. He also loved Levit. Some are saying that Levit was the number one quarterback on his board, or on his board currently right now. Let me tell you a few things when I reached out to people in the industry, one NFL scout, and I wrote down some notes here with Sam Levitt. I do think it's going to cost roughly $4 million to bring him in, which is a bargain when you really think about it. I understand that's uncomfortable to say, but if Sorsby got $5 million, and that number is reported out there, you're going to think that Levit is getting 3.5 to 4, somewhere around that that ballpark. So the first thing with Levit, and if he does commit, I'm going to be really excited. Okay, I love Sam Levitt. I really, really, really do. And it comes down to who you are as a person. If you like confidence, Sam Levitt's your guy. All right. His confidence is borderline cocky. And you can even say that is part of Levitt's game. All right. This is one thing that always sticks out to me about him. Before the Texas game, he looked into the eyes of every media member and said, I am better than Quinn Ewers going into the Texas game as a heavy underdog. And in that game, Ewers was pretty good towards the end, but Levit was okay in that game. It was pretty impressive. And you then look at this past season and didn't go the way that you wanted it to. The injuries were a part of it, and Arizona State doesn't have the deepest pockets. We have seen their coach beg and plead for a donor to come out and write a check for $20 million for Arizona State to be competitive. And I like Kenny Dillingham a lot. That's not an insult. He's just dealing with the times. Something else about Levit that I like is when I did his film study, I did feel while watching him, he has a good football mind. He feels like a player who plays prepared. All right, he understands what he's going up against. He will play a different style based on the opponent. So what do I mean by that? Well, versus Texas Tech, he did a really good job of avoiding disaster plays. Now, did he have some interceptable balls that were thrown in that game? Yes, but some of those throws were Jordan Tyson effort throws. And Jordan Tyson was the best wide receiver prospect in college football this past year. And he'll probably be the first wide receiver off the board in this next draft cycle, either him or Carnell Tate. So he was on the team, and they had a really elite running back. So he had a good supporting cast, but he didn't have an elite offensive line. He didn't have an elite group of tight ends. So versus Texas Tech, he did a good job of getting the football away, not taking strip sacks, which is something that Texas Tech can do. They have by far the best defensive line, I think, in the sport this year, Texas Tech. And by far it's probably a stretch. Miami's in there, but you get the point. He beat them. He quite frankly went out there and beat them. He had some unlucky things go in that game, lots of drops. A tight end had a big play, but he fumbled. And he led a 4th down drive down the field to beat Texas Tech after Texas Tech came back when they were down by 9 for a good portion of the game. Something else about Sam Levitt that has been repeated to me over and over is his work ethic. All right. Now, I know it's easy. Hey, he's got a great work ethic now. What if he gets a $4 million check? He's in Baton Rouge. There's a lot of distractions in Baton Rouge. Well, Arizona State's got a lot of those same distractions as well. But I will tell you that based on my understanding, part of this is what was told to me by someone that covers the Big 12. And there's also an article in The Athletic about this as well that backs this up, is that his work ethic is insane. Now, the reason that's important is because Garrett Nussmeier's work ethic was questioned last year. All right. You don't have to worry about that with Sam Levitt, per my sources. Okay. Once again, things change. People change. So he's got a cockiness about him, but at the same time, he backs it up with hard work. And, you know, when you think about that, what is Lane Kiffin about? Lane Kiffin's about boldness. Lane Kiffin's about being who you are. And, you know, I'm really excited if Levitt does end up signing with LSU. Now, here's the question. What if he doesn't? LSU is in trouble. They just are. Okay. And the reason I say that is because it's not just the one quarterback. You need to get multiples. And as far as the next QB on their board, it does get a little tricky. Okay. But right now, I'm feeling decent about Sam Levitt to LSU. Okay. All right. Is Sam married? Well, that's even better. We say hi to David. We say hi to Jamie. Thank you. We love you too. Once again, I love that insignia next to your name. Join the YouTube membership. We got extra film studies for you. So if you guys have any questions about any prospect, I've watched pretty much all of them, not all of them with a fine-tooth comb. So there you go. I want to get into, to me, one of the more interesting visitors that is lined up for LSU next week. And as someone who does partake in Division II football from time to time, there was a big uproar earlier today when it was announced that a Ferris State quarterback would be visiting LSU next week. And no, it's not Trinidad Chambliss. It's a guy by the name of Carson Gulker. So Alan True, who is a really good reporter for 247 Sports, reported today that Ferris State quarterback Carson Gulker has 2 visits lined up, one with Michigan State and one with LSU, according to his agent. Okay. And the thing that really interested a lot of people is that Gulker is listed as a quarterback. And it's important always to do your own research. Okay. So I watched Gulker in the championship game versus Harding. I have a lot of friends that went to Harding. And Gulker is a wide receiver. That was his main role with Ferris State last year. Okay. He's listed as a quarterback. He did throw 15 passes last year. So the official Ferris State roster lists him as a quarterback. And on top of him playing some quarterback, they also played 2 other quarterbacks who were also really good. But this year he had 34 catches for 548 yards and 7 touchdowns, 81 rushes for 541 yards and 5 touchdowns. And as we mentioned, his passing stats a minute ago. So if you were to bring him in, it would be interesting because he could be a good emergency quarterback, but he would also be a Swiss Army knife Almost everyone compared him to Taysom Hill. The difference for me between Gulker and Taysom Hill is that Taysom Hill's speed is just downright stupid. Gulker is not that level of a burner. And also, Gulker is a solid 240 pounds. This is a thick football player. And you guys know, I like my football players thick. I like them thick as a brick, thicker than a Snicker. So I'm in on the Carson Gulker hype train. Okay. Let's go a little bit deeper on Stefilin Green. Pause. 34 tackles in 16 games over the past couple of seasons. 5.5 tackles for loss, 2 PBUs. He's got 2 years of eligibility to play with the 71.5 PFF grade. Okay. I do think this is the best player LSU has brought in up to this point. Also made a comment about Juwan Howard's hairline. And for those that know, you know, Trey Brown got that Juwan Howard shape up. Okay. I also posted earlier today that Sam Levit should have been taking a coffee call. And if some of the reports in here are true, that he's going to stay another day, that's good news. Okay. Now, let's see. I cannot freaking wait, dude. Can't freaking wait. Let's go to Ronnie. I would really love for Lane to find the next Chambliss. Well, here's the thing about the next Chambliss remarks. I do think, yes, it would be very nice to find the next Trinidad Chambliss. But you have to remember that Ole Miss didn't find Trinidad Chambliss in the way that they would like to claim that they found him. Because if you thought that Trinidad Chambliss was going to be better than the Heisman Trophy winner, which I think he's been, you would have started him from the get-go. So it's hard to find the next Chambliss. All right. In many ways, the Chambliss story is almost as unbelievable as the Burrow story, right? Because it for Burrow to be as good as he was, yeah, it's shocking. But Joe was a 4-star recruit. Joe was the starter. There was plenty of people at Ohio State that thought Joe should have started over the quarterback prior, Dwayne Haskins. But nobody was clamoring for Chambliss, a D2 guy, to start over Austin Simmons. I'm not saying Chambliss is better than Burrow. It's just Ole Miss got very lucky. They did. And that's not me saying that Chambliss isn't good either. All right. Let's go to Damon Wilson, a defensive end that entered the portal. Quay Rusall, I've never been able to pronounce his name correctly. He's an edge player out of Alabama. Yeah, let's talk about both of them. So with Damon Wilson, he's actually a part of something even bigger in college football. All right. So there's a huge lawsuit that he's currently in, or let me just put it this way, a kerfuffle that he's currently in with Georgia. So Damon Wilson has a lot of juice. He is really talented. Missouri's front seven was very underrated. Trotter is a linebacker. He's going to get drafted high. Obviously, Byron Young was a good player for them. Missouri's always had a good front. And Damon Wilson transferred over, and he was very productive, as you could see. He had 9 sacks this past year. So he initially committed to Georgia. He was a top 100 recruit, and he signed some lucrative NIL deals with Georgia, and Georgia came out and said, we want the money back. And this is one of the first real public cases of someone actually doing something along those lines. And Damon Wilson can play. It's just, is it worth that? If you get what I'm saying. Because for me, when you get into, and I'll pull up Rusal's stats for you. I'm butchering his name. If you're watching this right now, I've watched you. Okay. I know you have some ability, as I've started doing Alabama film studies this year. But understand, Damon Wilson, you got to deal with that. But I think it's worth it. I do think he can play. So Rusal hadn't played a whole lot this year, 7 tackles, 1 sack, as you can see from his game log. He played sparingly, got some mop-up duty in the Indiana game. But why should you still want him, even though he wasn't really that productive? Well, you can see he's still young in his career. He's only a sophomore, played a lot more in 2024 than he did in 2025. Alabama defense is really banged up. And one thing I really like about him is I tend to like to place bets on players that were at loaded position groups. And Alabama's edge room was diverse. They had thicker guys that would play on the edge, like LT Overton. He's more of a defensive tackle type, but they would go thick at one of the ends from time to time. They also had Yanzi Pierre, who was a rotational end, who I think was their best end, and he was an absolute beast. Okay. So I like him. We obviously could use another another edge player because we don't know what's going to happen with Chaz Chambliss here. All right, even though LSU still feels good about it. Okay, so we'll see what happens there. Now, it is interesting that LSU has completely rebuilt their wide receiver room. All right. And what I think really should be the point of what Lane Kiffin brought into the room is he brought in only guys that can get explosives. All right. And all 3 of the receivers have a yard per catch average over 17. Okay. Which is exciting. It can also be concerning at times because, you get into why didn't the team feature him more on screens and all of that. But part of why all 3 of these guys had big numbers is that they were just good. And Trey Brown's a good football player. All right. As you saw in the film study, there are some things that I worry about for our patrons and Discordians and members, the people that pay a little extra to help keep PHL going. You guys have already seen that breakdown. But basically, there are some blocking concerns, obviously, with him, 6'3", a slender build. And there are some concerns about the level of competition. The offense is slightly different. But the one thing I really like about Trey Brown in particular is that at Old Dominion, they played fast. Okay? They played really fast. But you do wonder, God, we got all these wide receivers committed. We got 3 wide receivers coming in, and then we signed 3 new wide receivers. We have not a whole lot returning, so you did need to rebuild that room. But I do trust George McDonald and his tutelage because, man, he's been arguably the best wide receiver coach in the country, outside of course, a guy like Brian Hartline. But, all of this means nothing if you don't get a quarterback and if you don't get a good offensive line. And the problem for LSU right now is even if you get Sam Levitt, what is your plan at the backup quarterback position? Do you have any money to spend on the backup quarterback position? Who could you convince to come in and be a backup for LSU next year? I don't know. That's part of why bringing in the Fair State kid is very interesting. Something else. Keon Keeley's in the portal. It's another edge player from Alabama. Coming up next, what really stands out to me about Sam Levitt? All right. Why you should want him to be the next quarterback and why you shouldn't be too worried about the injury concern. Power Hour Network listeners and viewers, you might be consuming this content with that crick in your back that you've been trying to get rid of for so long. Take this as your sign today to book your appointment with LabordTherapy.com. In the Lafayette region, there is no one that you will find that cares more about any different type of pain that you might have than the team at LabordTherapy.com. Book today. Once again, that's LABORDE therapy.com, or you can visit one of their 5 locations all throughout the Lafayette region. Are you a die-hard LSU fan? And would you like to understand the complex game of football better? Well, sign up today for our PHL Patreon. This is his second touchdown. Counter G, why you're pulling the guard. We dive deep on recruiting and the transfer portal at a level that you have never seen before. Film breakdowns from so many different angles, and my personal favorites, oh yeah, the analytics, baby. I like to get nerdy. We take a look at cutting-edge statistics that help all of us understand LSU football even better. And guess what? Every new sign-up gets a Joe Burrow card in the mail for free. But we got to save the best for last. Our private Discord community of LSU fans from around the globe. Sign up today. Patreon.com/LSU football and put your name on our wall of patrons. Special thanks to everybody who's on here. Let's freaking go. Dreamless Nation. I trust the process. I'd rather spin on the trench boys. Lane doesn't need the super 5-star wide receivers that cost $2 million. Well, you're right. I don't think at this point you should go spin wildly on Cam Coleman, but I've seen wilder things. That would be a Lane thing to do. But Cam Coleman is still by far the best player in the transfer portal. And I hope and pray he does not go to Texas, because him and Arch are scary, and of course we play them next year. Now, I want to discuss Levit a little bit further to help calm your nerves. I think a lot of you, even if you don't like him at this point, you're hoping he signs with us, because if he doesn't, we're in a really tough spot. It's just that simple. It's not the end of the world. You never know what's going to happen at the quarterback position, especially with Lane, who has the best quarterback track record in the country over the past 5 years. For me, I love Sam Levitt's competitiveness. I shared what I said a minute ago about the NFL scout. Something else I like about Levit is his play extension mixed with his ability to throw the football vertically. All right, so one thing that you saw in particular in our Texas Tech film study, but he's done this practically throughout his career at Arizona State, he can extend a play while keeping his eyes down the field and throwing the football accurately. And one thing he will have is his mobility. There's so much made about his medical at this point. What I would tell you is I think it's fine for you to come to your own conclusion if Levit can play or not play. What I would say, as far as speculating on someone's medical history, it's a dangerous game because injuries are tough to predict. I know plenty of people in the sports medicine industry, lucky enough to have family members that have worked in that industry. They can tell you that, yes, when you hurt something, does it increase the chance of further re-injury? Yes, but you don't know when that's going to be. You just don't. And as someone who plays more fantasy football than probably most of you, That costs a lot of people hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Why? Because people just automatically thought, well, Christian McCaffrey's going to get hurt again. Really? Tua, his history of concussions, I'm afraid it's going to come up again. It didn't come up this year. Not once. So, yes, you're always concerned when you're forking over as much money as you are to some new guy coming in and he has this medical situation. And it stinks. It obviously makes you feel uncertain. But everything that I've heard regarding that is that it's not a medical situation where you should be worried about him playing in the season opener next year. Okay? Is Levit at Oklahoma State now, Clint? Is that some reporting? Good to see you, man. But I think you were talking about Mestermaker. I don't think Mestermaker is coming to LSU. Or I don't think Levit would go to Oklahoma State if Mestermaker is already there with his former head coach. Okay? Now, a few other things. I didn't think I was going to get this call today, but this guy doesn't need your prayers because he's living a life that all of us wish we could live. Male, female, black, white, it doesn't matter your background. You wish you could be this person. But please, please, please keep Jayden Daniels in your thoughts. Tough day for him. Cliff Kingsbury, his offensive coordinator, out with the Commanders. Lots of change. We did not think Jayden's year was going to happen the way that it did. It was a down year for a lot of our LSU guys. And they're millionaires many times over. Okay? And a lot of you just want to worry about transfer portal and all of it. But, I did get a call from someone close to Jayden today. And, man, it was tough because I do Commanders breakdowns. I'll be honest. I love the Commanders. I used to live in D.C., but I only like doing those breakdowns if Jayden is playing. And anyone that knows me knows how much I love that guy and how much I love doing Commanders breakdowns when he's playing. I quit doing them. My Mariota breakdowns would do as well as the Jayden videos would, so I should have kept doing them. But I just didn't have any joy in it. I did Commanders breakdowns for JD5. So that's tough on him to have the rookie season that he had and became such a big celebrity. And now you're going through a major coaching change here. You had the injury rehabilitation, which was more of a precautionary shutdown, if anything. I hope Washington does not screw this up. I hope they don't, but I do not believe in Dan Quinn. All right. But we'll get back to LSU here. Let's go to William. Trust Lane, but we got to pull the dang trigger on quarterback. Now, here's the thing, William. We're ready. We were ready. All right. Texas Tech just has some bags, and something else there for Sorsby. I'm not mad at him, though. He's going to a school that we will not play unless we see him in the playoff, which is a high likelihood that we will if we do, or we have a chance if we do actually make the playoff. Okay. Let's go to King MJ asking the important questions. Speaking of race, is Carter black? Oh, man. There's 1,000 different jokes that you can bring up about that. I am a proud Creole, mixed with more elixirs than you could ever imagine. But I've been asked that before. But yeah, proud. But here's the thing. I don't like bringing up anything too personal because I want this to be a place where people don't have to think about that. I want you to look at me as someone that loves everyone, right? But yeah, let's go. Levitt is a 2-year guy as well, says Honkus. That's a pretty funny name to follow up after that comment. It's a 2-year guy as well. Am I keeping secrets as far as the transfer portal is concerned, or regarding my background? Just don't look at my 23andMe. It you people will decipher how the pyramids were built before you could figure out my 23. What is it? Or ancestry.com. Jeter from the other. Are you a biracial angel? No, so there we have a lot of people in here. I'll save that for a crazier live stream. But yeah, I'm very fortunate to be who I am. Like I think about this all the time, just to get personal. I think about it all the time, how lucky I am to get to be who I am with so many different backgrounds of both sides of my mother and father's families. And yeah, I'm proudly black. Proudly. But I would better describe myself as Creole. But yeah, it doesn't matter your race when you're here, though. Any news on Levit? No. You said you couldn't wait. Well, text me later, James. I'll give you some insight. Why not? Levit might be waiting for the playoff teams to visit. Sure. It could be it. Not starting Chambliss was on Lane. Yeah, I don't think I would have started him either. But that goes to show you that there are a gazillion different variables that go into a quarterback playing, and you might be wrong about all of them. And some people have used that as a criticism for Lane, that he didn't start Chambliss from the jump. Well, let me be clear. Nobody knows who the best quarterback is. You don't. We talked about Dwayne Haskins and Joe Burrow. We've talked about Tim Tebow and Cam Newton. Sometimes you don't start the best guy, and you still make the right decision. There's no telling if Joe Burrow would have been as good at Ohio State as he was at LSU. And Haskins was unbelievable at Ohio State. I got to see him throw in person, got to see him play in a Rose Bowl. He's great. He's absolutely great. But you look at most coaches, they have come across that. They don't start the right quarterback. Why? Because you don't know. You don't know. NFL, it's easier with draft capital and all of that. High school, it's a lot easier. College, it's near impossible. Fat Boy Slim coming in with the laugh. Oh, you're in the Philippines and you're stranded. Oh, that's funny, Jordan. All right. As you guys know, I want to make the live stream as much about you as it is about LSU football. I do take a lot of comments on here, but I want to get back to a few other things here. So there was an interesting back and forth between Matt Moscona and Ole Miss fans. And Moscona's done great work this entire time. I'm friends with Matt. And the debate was regarding Kevin Smith and the college football transfer portal and his role with Kawan Lacey. So Kevin Smith was going back and forth between LSU and Ole Miss. And Part of what Moscona said earlier was part of why LSU liked Kevin Smith being in Oxford had as much to do with Kevin Smith maintaining a relationship with Kawan during the playoff as it had to do with Kevin Smith actually coaching in the playoff. And there's probably some truth to that. If I was Lane and I really wanted Kawan to come on over, I'm down with that. But now you're in a spot where Ole Miss is happily ready to pay Kawan Lacey whatever it takes to keep him. And even if, let's just say Kawan Lacey's not the same guy next year with Ole Miss, it does make a sense. It does make a lot of sense for Ole Miss to overpay to keep Kawan Lacey there. All right. Some of it is legacy reasons because you get to keep a true legend around, and he truly was legendary this past year for Ole Miss. But also on Kawan's side of it, you get to be a legend in Oxford. So he re-signs with Ole Miss. Now, this then gets into, well, if we paid so much for Kevin Smith to come on over, to leave Ole Miss and replace Frank Wilson, and Frank Wilson goes over to Ole Miss and Oxford, then we're going to be comparing the two throughout their careers as running back coaches, when so much of a running back's coach success, that coach's success comes down to factors that are out of their control. The play calling, the offensive line coach, the scheme, the overall health, things that are out of your control, such as disciplinary things, which has obviously plagued the LSU running back room. So, yeah, I understand if some of you are frustrated that we brought over Kevin Smith, and one of the biggest things was, oh my goodness, Kawan Lacey's going to come with them, and we're losing Caden Durham, and it's not a big deal because Kawan Lacey's coming over, and boom, you get a running back with 1 carry for 4 yards. That's frustrating. That's very frustrating. And I get that. But we're still early in all of this. And for me, I'm not willing to panic at the running back position just yet. Okay? Now, I do want to bring up the other running back. I said we'll get to him a little bit later. I've just not been able to watch literally a second of this kid yet. Rod Gainey Jr. It's ironic because I actually watched some Charlotte film, but it was actually of a former LSU wide receiver by the name of Javen Nichols, who actually lit it up for them this year. And here are the stats for Rod Gainey Jr. 6 foot 185 out of Tampa, Florida. 74 carries, 260 yards, along with 37 yards, 16 catches for 44 yards. Okay. I've not been able to watch him. I'm not going to make any bold proclamations about Rod Gainey Jr., especially when you're playing on a team like Charlotte. And Charlotte was bad. Charlotte was a very bad team this year, the 49ers. But these numbers are not good. They are not good. He has a long rush of 37, but outside of that 137-yard carry, in his 73 other carries, he didn't have a single one go for more than 11 yards. All right, that's concerning, right? And then 16 catches, 44 yards. Once again, I didn't watch him. If the offensive line is as bad as LSU's was this past year, it's not really that big a deal. It's really not. Okay? Then you're like, okay, Rod, there's nothing he could have done. And some schemes are like that. If your offensive line is as bad as our offensive line, it's like you're playing Leonard Fournette versus Alabama and over and over again. Okay. Let's go to King M. He said $5 short of my rent, but I'd rather support you, Carter. Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. I should have Cliff on here because Cliff knows way more about our family than I do. Every time Cliff and I talk, I learn something new about my fam. But yeah, obviously, Cliff is the president of PHL, my cuz. All right. Let's go to P4. Don't have an issue with Lacey not coming. I have an issue with our coaches still coaching at Ole Miss. You should. You should. And I will tell you this. This is just pure speculation. I do think Lane is shocked that the team is where they are right now. I am too, to be honest. I think we knew that they were going to be Temple. I don't think Lane himself could have predicted the first big lucky domino for Ole Miss is they basically got a preseason game as a playoff game. They got to play a team that they had already beaten down. And I understand it's hard to beat a good team twice. Well, Tulane wasn't a good team compared to Ole Miss and the other playoff teams. And they got to have a dress rehearsal. There was no way Lane could have known that. And I still contend that Texas A&M, even though Ole Miss is a better team than Texas A&M, I still contend that A&M should have got the higher seed than Ole Miss. And instead of Ole Miss playing Tulane in the first round, Ole Miss would have hosted Miami in the first round. Would Ole Miss be where they are right now? And then if they would have beaten Miami, they would have had to have beaten Ohio State. Okay. And Ohio State was a better team than Georgia this year. Okay. So, I just can't state enough that the true reason that all of this has happened is because the college football calendar sucks. It stinks. It's wretched. It's terrible. It's downright putrid. Okay. William, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. I love when I said I'm on a 3-day fast. That 2 of you actually sent me your delicious food meals as a text. Appreciate it. If I wasn't in enough pain already. And that's the big thing, American Patriot. That's why I need to watch them. You've got to be Harlem Berry. I mean, you've got to be a dude if you're under 200 pounds and be a running back in the SEC. Like, like you have got to be special. Oh, you're not Harlem Berry special with the football in your hands? Good luck. Do you have the speed of Jeff Demps or Trenton Holiday? If you do, you don't have to be 200 pounds. Let's go to Clayton Adney. I know some of the transfer portal sites to each team has targets listed. Is that a requirement to list who they are targeting? No. All right. So, and this is honestly pretty common, Clayton, and I might be misconstruing your question. The team sites of On3 and 247, there's writers for those team sites that cover the team. And they talk to, obviously, people in the building. Obviously, Shay is a friend of the channel. But that doesn't mean they're getting orders or that's the official ledger of transfers, people who they're talking to, and so on and so on. All right. part of why I don't do like day-to-day portal reporting is it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. All right. And we have a really good relationship with the head transfer portal grader in Cooper Patagna. And he's let me know how much work goes into actually grading these kids. A lot of it is, and I won't explain it. I'll let him come on here. He's scheduled to come on the show this week. And actually, we got to reschedule because he wanted to do Thursday night, but Thursday night's a playoff game. You know, it's not official, anything that you read on these sites. It's not. It's also not affiliated with the school itself. Now, oftentimes, a kid will tweet out, hey, I got an offer, or a coach will tweet to a school or a national reporter, hey, we're targeting this kid or not. So there you go. Let's go to H-Town Creole. He says the best team in the SEC was 8-4. No, A&M was not the best team in the SEC. They were not. It looked like it at times, but they were not. They got to play Missouri with the backup quarterback, who's a really good team. So there you go. Now, I've had a few of you message me about the LSU men's basketball game. Apparently, that started. And apparently, there is some tomfoolery going on. And yes, it is true. South Carolina, who's bad this year, they are beating the bejesus out of LSU right now, 52-35. I've ignored it because they've gotten the injury bug. Thomas has been out. And I wanted this just to be a transfer portal thing. And I don't like doing like live commentary until like an hour into a stream because people listen after the fact. That's why we waited so long to talk about the Levit stuff. I just talked about the stuff that's already out. Yeah, Missouri wasn't that great, to your point. But my point was one of the teams that they did play was really weak. But even then, I've said the SEC had a down year. Let's go to Nolan. How are we feeling about the recent transfers in? My honest opinion overall, I would give it a C+. I would give it a solid C+. It is not so much the players that LSU has brought in. It's just the needs for this team have not been filled. All right, they just haven't been filled at the big positions of need. No offensive line commitments. Obviously, the quarterback commitment, but I feel good about that one. Then on the defensive side, you feel good about pretty much everywhere, especially if you get Chaz Coleman. You should feel good about having a good defense next year. Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. In the next 5 to 10 minutes, we'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. If you super chat, we'll keep this party moving. Viewership's up for the stream. I really appreciate each and every one of you. There's a gazillion LSU shows, live streams, and all of it. I've only dedicated my entire life to making this channel what it is, okay? And making the best LSU football content I possibly can. Now, we get into the offensive line targets. And I want to preface this by saying these are these rankings aren't official. But I love the 247 rankings. I think they're a little bit easier to navigate. I do think just one little spicy take down here. I gave you a wink, wink, nod, nod about Andrew Sprague. Enter the portal with a do not contact. Jacarius Peak is a guy I said LSU should go after. He already has Texas A&M and the big schools coming after him. I do think we need to get involved. Wilkin Formby has played a lot of football for Alabama. But I'm telling you right now, if Imarion Harris at Arkansas was the 5th highest ranked offensive tackle, that lets me know that the offensive tackle market is very bare. All right. When Carius Kern played football for LSU this past season, I said it at the time. His great games were truly great, but his bad games were bad. He had penalty issues. There were some playbook issues. There was, is he a guard or a tackle? And now he's at Ole Miss. And long story short, Ole Miss is a short drive from where he is in Arkansas. All right, so where he's from in Arkansas, where his family is, it's actually West Memphis. He lives in a city called Marion, which is close to a city called West Memphis, which is the Arkansas version of Memphis. All right, Memphis is obviously right on the Arkansas state border. Oxford is 2 hours from there. All right, so there's 3 different states involved, and obviously he's from, he went to LSU. Oxford's the closest city to him, okay? Straight interstate, easy drive. And Arkansas felt good about Carius Kern coming to visit. The problem is Fayetteville's 4 hours away, so it is a little bit further. And Ole Miss was probably aggressive. And then, one other thing about Carius' recruitment, Frank Wilson, okay? Lance Hurd. Should LSU pursue Lance Hurd? Yes. Yes. Here's the thing with Lance. You put on the Mississippi State film, he's just mauling people. Put on the Alabama film, it's a little bit different, okay? Both games on the road, both games loud, hostile environments. You would like to see him perform better versus the better competition. I do like Jacarius Peak quite a bit, though. I do like Andrew Sprague quite a bit. Coming from the ACC and the Big Ten to the SEC, it is a step up. Okay? We've got a lot of work to do on the O-line. A lot. Okay? Yeah, I saw a pretty respected Alabama guy get excited about DJ Chester potentially coming in and playing center, and nothing would bring me more joy than that. Okay? Now, part of why I've been checking the basketball score now is I did get a little birdie telling me that this was, and there's probably going to be better video of this coming out, that Lane Kiffin is indeed at the basketball game. Guess who else is there? Whit Weeks, Sam Levit. I got to turn the volume down. That's obviously Lane in the baseball hat. Crazy. What Sam should do is just grab the microphone at midcourt, saying, you guys do not want to watch this monstrosity. But I'm committing to provide you joy. If he did that, he will have a fan in me for the end of time. Yeah, sometimes you If you want to know why I randomly started looking at the basketball results. Let's take a few more here. Miami's got some hogs. Let them boys eat. I want to talk about the playoff. So I've gone back and forth on this Miami Ole Miss game. Chambliss is playing out of his mind. Carson Beck is not. Carson Beck's also not going out there to lose games. We get caught up in the Georgia defensive mystique. Georgia just has not had a defensive line all year. And Miami's got the best one left in the field. Miami's secondary is also playing really well. You can argue they got the best secondary left in the field. Okay. So, I tend in these close game situations, I do take the better quarterback, and right now it clearly is Chambliss. But for some reason, I do think it's going to end for Ole Miss. And obviously, a lot of LSU fans watching this, you should cheer because it would provide clarity on everything that's going on. And then, obviously, if you're LSU, paying that bonus to Lane Kiffin is kind of weird. So there you have it. H-Town Creole says, if Carius Kern is the best offensive lineman in the portal, what the F is Lane doing? Well, Kern wanted to leave. He wanted to move closer to home. And there's other things, obviously, but yeah, it does suck. You a 5-star offensive lineman at your biggest position of need goes to the old school. Okay. Oh, interesting. I didn't see this. Jordan Davidson, the Oregon running back, true freshman, power back, thick back, is not going to play for the rest of the playoffs with a broken clavicle. I wanted to get to this from Chris Marler. Total players lost to the transfer portal. Obviously, the teams with fired coaches are going to be up there. And 4 of the 5 top teams here had fired coaches. Auburn 33, Florida 31, Mississippi State 30, Arkansas 30, LSU 26. Tennessee 24, Oklahoma 23, Missouri 22, South Carolina 21, Texas 18, Alabama 17, Kentucky 17, Vanderbilt 14, A&M 13, Georgia 8, Ole Miss 3. What stands out to you about that? You tell me. I'll pull up the LSU game. We'll do a little play-by-play. Let's see. Stop pulling up for me. This game has got to be on ESPN. All right. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Georgia's at 8, but it's still early. Okay, look, we're only down 15 at home, but still we're only down 15. I do feel bad for McMahon and the injuries, but 57-43. Oh, Pegasus, you think they should get another transfer portal wide receiver? I'm down with that. I am down with that. Type Y for yes, type in for no if you have the LSU men's basketball game on in the background. Oh, let's go. This is a nasty dunk. Now we're down 12. Dude, I swear, every McMahon game is just like the other one. All right. Where if he's blowing out a team, he's going to allow the other team back and it end up being a close game. Or if he is down by a lot and he's getting blown out, he's going to make it semi interesting with a random spurt and then still end up losing the game like 7 or 8. I do think Lane wants Winston Watkins, the wide receiver from Ole Miss. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about him. Lane likes him a lot. All right, and he even mentioned it in the post game press conference after watching Winston Watkins have a few good plays versus us, the post game versus LSU. He's like, I don't want to talk too much about Winston Watkins because I don't want someone to steal him in the portal, which would be ironic considering Lane is now at LSU and he's going to want at least one of those receivers to come on over. And I think Watkins would be very interested in doing that. And if you have a portal question, feel free to fire it on in. Quincy Porter, 5-star out of Ohio State, plans to enter the transfer portal. Okay. See what Quincy Porter did this year. 4 catches, 59 yards out of New Milford, New Jersey. I wonder if New Milford has a lot of. I'm kidding. Anyway, Quincy Porter, 5-star receiver. If I were him, why would I not go to USF and just go light it up in a smaller conference with my wide receivers coach going there to be the head coach and then up the price for a P4 next year? It was interesting to see Harbaugh fired today by the Ravens. 18 years with the Ravens. Do they go get Brian Flores? That would make a lot of sense. Defensive culture. There's still a piece of me, even though if you hire this guy to be your head coach, you might not have gotten Tyler Shuck, who looks like the real deal. But there is a piece of me that wanted the Saints to just hire Clint Kubiak. Why do I think Harbaugh got fired? It's a good question. Well, they have Lamar Jackson, and they've not been to a Super Bowl. And even though Lamar had a down year for his standards, he's still one of the best quarterbacks of this era. And that 2-year MVP run, and then the MVP he probably should have won last year, uh, was nothing short of incredible. If I give you 3 years of MVP level quarterback play, I need you to reach a Super Bowl in one of those seasons. And the truth is, the best team to never reach the Super Bowl are the 2023 Ravens. Now, is some of that on the players? Yes, because I do think the Ravens culture gets a little overvalued from time to time because they've always been so good. But, you know, is it true that Lamar shrinks in big games? Yeah. Yeah. But that 2023 Ravens team is one of the best NFL teams I have ever watched, period. They just choked. Mahomes and Kelsey, um, the guy who likes massages, did that thing to him before the game. Not a massage, but they mess with Mahomes and Kelsey. And in the playoffs, you don't trash talk Mahomes and Kelsey. And what did Mahomes and Kelsey do? They had arguably the best Mahomes Kelsey game they've ever had versus the Ravens. And they won. You don't poke the bear. Bring Harbaugh in as an analyst. Yeah, well, ironically, he was a special teams coach before he became a head coach. So I don't know if he would be but yeah. But yeah, you want to hop in?
No, girl.
No, I
She
had
made her first loaf of sourdough.
no, no. I had someone call me today.
Show Carter.
Show sourdough. You want to show the chat?
Look at it.
Let's show the
It's
chat.
Perfect.
You want to show the chat or sourdough?
Look, Pressy.
Pressure on live.
It's so good, baby.
What y'all rate this sourdough
My baby, I love her.
on a scale of 1 to 10? Y'all rate the sourdough.
Pressy is 100 out of 100.
Look at that sourdough. That's my niece right there. Say hi,
My
Presh.
baby, I love her.
Say hi.
Say hey, girl.
It's on the ear.
She's on my earphone.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's fine.
My baby, I love her. Is Arkansas playing?
Not LSU.
South Carolina.
We're going to the game in a few weeks. We're gonna have a good time. Gonna eat some burgers.
Oh, good, baby. And we're needle pointing. We're about to be homesteaders.
Oh yeah.
Just letting you know that. Aren't we, baby girl? Are we gonna be homesteaders, Piddle?
No, we did have some. I did have someone pretty prominent. I mentioned him saying that they've been missing hey on the streams. I did.
I was just in there.
That's what I'm saying. Like you hadn't been on in a while,
Oh yeah.
and someone.
They think I was dead or something.
No, they were like they actually just brought up they missed Booger and Hey on the stream.
But hold on, both my nieces are fighting over my attention.
Okay, all right.
What is it, my baby? My other baby.
That's exactly what I needed. My wonderful niece Pressy during a 3-day fast showing off that sourdough bread. Oh my God, I would destroy some sourdough. Well, yeah, she's country. I think most people are country. Or most people in the South are country. But did y'all really like that sourdough? I'm kind of interested if LSU whiffs here on Levitt, do they go in the direction of DJ Lagway? That's a good question from Ben. 1 to 10. I'd put it about a 7. I would. I put it about a 7. All right, y'all. That'll do it for me this lovely evening. If you just happen to be a transfer that is committed or signed to LSU, we want you on PHL. Hit me up. We want to know more about you. We don't care if you just got here or if you don't know what Coffee Call is or you don't know where Fred's is located or the Revelry or anything like that. Once you sign to be a Tiger, once a Tiger, always a Tiger. Parish Guy says Ty Simpson. Do you know how many things would need to happen for Ty Simpson to go to LSU? A lot. It would make sense, though. It was shocking how many Alabama fans, when I did my last Ty Simpson film study, they were out on him. Everybody wants a quarterback with mobility, and Ty's running obviously isn't great. He's an effective runner, but it's not great. So you look at Alabama, they have Keelan Keeley, or Keelan Russell, excuse me, and he is a 5-star quarterback out of Duncanville. Extremely talented. And they also have Austin Mack, who is a Washington guy who came over, was the first quarterback in the game versus a Rose Bowl. Both of them have some juice with their legs, and Ty Simpson doesn't. What do we know about Ty Simpson? Well, Lane is aware of Ty Simpson. He knows Ty's dad, I believe. And I don't think, because Simpson is really mulling the NFL, it is a weak draft class. He does have a higher chance of going in the first round than many would think. Who knows? Hmm. TJ Finley? He did a really good interview with a friend of the channel, Van Lathan, not too long ago. Shout out TJ. LSU down by 9 now. Type Y for yes, type in for no if you want my play-by-play at the final few minutes of this basketball game. I will say the basketball environment in the PMAC, for those that actually do go to games, give me your honest opinion about the basketball environment in the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. Okay. Because obviously they're trying to build a new arena, Raising Cane's Arena. They are building one. I do love the location of the PMAC. I love that it's right next to Tiger Stadium. I love that it's right next to Mike's Cage. And we're LSU fans, right? I do think we tend to, overvalue like the game experience, if you will. But I will say the PMAC does leave a lot of money on the table because they don't have suites, right? They don't. And it's not a concern for me or you because I don't think a lot of us have suite money. But yeah, they do leave a lot of money on the table. And we're going to the game in Fayetteville, Arkansas in a few weeks. Dude, their basketball environment's insane. As much as I hate to say it, dude, it is in freaking insane. And one of my biggest things as a sports fan that concerns me because I don't have enough money to do this, but I want to go to all these arenas. Like I want to go to Cameron Indoor. I used to work with Coach K. I want to go to Rupp. I want to go to the Fog. I want to go to these arenas. They're incredible. I've been to a Final Four. Those are great. Honestly, the best college basketball experience isn't the final game of the Final Four. It's the final two. It's the semifinal of the Final Four. It's the 4 round, not the national championship round. National championship games are overrated. You go to the first round of the Final Four, you're getting 2 games for the price of 1. Okay. And my number one basketball experience was seeing LSU come back and beat Virginia Tech. And then Caitlin Clark beating beating Don Staley. God, dude, it was so epic. I know Cliff's been there to Rupp. Rupp has got to be. You can't be a diehard college basketball fan and not go to Rupp. Okay, we got it down to 8. Let's go. Let's go to Tari. Carter, is Cam Newton a game manager or a game changer or game manager? That's funny. Yeah, I saw that from Cam. He's gotten in trouble for doing it. The one thing I like about Cam, I do think Cam's an elite personality. And I do think, when it's all said and done, he will be like the football version of Charles Barkley when his media career is done. He is truly gifted behind a microphone. Okay. And I hate glazing a Panther and Auburn Tiger. It makes me very uncomfortable, but he's just good. When you do this for a living, talent. All right. And I think of myself having good broadcast talent, he's elite. And he's got the perfect amount of, he knows he's probably wrong about this, but at least he's controversial. At least he's interesting. Because I know people swear off, well, we don't want hot takes. But hot takes are what's fun. I spat off plenty of hot takes. But the truth is He said Brock Purdy was a game manager instead of a game changer. I think he said Justin Herbert was a game manager. Which is silly to me. I think Justin Herbert should be the MVP this year. I think he said Drake May was a game manager. And we're not down by 8. We're down by 7 now. Ashton Stamps commits to Arizona State. Okay. This is the second time Arizona State has brought in a backup promising defensive back from LSU. Can you name the first over the past 5 years? Let's see how much ball you guys know. Can you name the first Arizona State transfer from LSU? There we go. There's Devin getting it with Terrence Welch. Oh, yeah, Trevez Moore was another. That's a defensive back. Moore, of course, was a defensive lineman. All right, 68-60 is your score. Thank goodness we got that big non-conference win versus Boston College. Sarcasm. God, we're not going to make the tournament again. And both basketball teams are going to be 0-2 in conference. Make this, please. God bless America. Too many single digits on the court, man. There's just too many single digits. You got to have balance. You need a few 24s out there, 32s, 37s. Good. We're in the bonus. Get some free throws here. Yeah, he did, but I was talking about just defensive backs. All right, y'all. Yeah, I mean, if he wants to do it, rehab his image. So I was doing this 36-hour fast, and my breath was stinky. Yeah. So I was on this fast, and I had to go meet with the local chamber of commerce, and my breath stunk. It was putrid. So I went to my wife's store, and she had some Tic Tacs, and I broke my fast with 5 teeny tiny Tic Tacs. So I don't think that changed a whole lot for me. It's the only thing I've eaten. Black coffee, water. It ends for me tonight at 10. But the thing that sucks when you do this is there's not like, because a few of you have DM'd me and we're just kind of watching the basketball game in the background here. Um, the thing that you don't know is how much it will affect you, right? I don't lose a whole lot of weight when I do this. Like I did it last year for 5 days. I think I lost like 4 or 5 pounds. And so far I've only lost two. And I'm doing it with a group of friends of mine. And there are they're losing more pounds than me. Once again, it affects different people. Samuel is like an actual fitness guru, instructor, and he's a big fan of ours. I don't know if he's listening. He told me he's against doing the fast, but he understands that there's some benefits to it. I just like the mental aspect of it, right? Like there's people that do way harder shit than I do. And I'm like, this is insane. This is insane how difficult this is. And there's people out there that do like way harder stuff than me. And through this fast, I think about them. I'm like, man, dude, I'm lucky to obviously be alive and being able to do this. I'm like, yeah, I could do 3 days. I could do it. Okay, 70 to 63. God, dude, we just cannot stop a fadeaway over the middle. Just in this little bit that I've watched, South Carolina's made some tough shots. Got to make this. What did I did this Matt McMahon games follow the same exact pattern every single time. I would never tell you guys a lie. It's get blown out, then make a surge in the second half, and then lose the game by like 10 or 11. And then why would you leave the shooter there? Why would you leave the shooter? It takes just a little bit of scouting. You never leave in the modern. See, we just got too many people wearing single digits out there, dude. And you think I'm playing about that. You need not everybody's a single digit. See, no, not enough higher digit players. See, South Carolina, they got some 31s, some 15s out there. Not everybody gets to wear a single. Hell, our best players didn't wear that. None of them. Pistol 44, Shaq 33, Chris 35. Stop with this nonsense. Oh, every play, every now that in college, it used to be in college basketball, you couldn't have a digit over 5. So you can either have 1 through 5, 10 through 15, 20 through 25, 30 through 35, 40 through 45, 50 or 55. Those are the only numbers. But now you could have 6, 7, 8, 9 in your digits. Everybody's got to have a single. Not good. You need balance. It does, Ronnie. It does. All right, this is breaking. Flage's hurt, swollen ankle per Kim Mulkey. She's going to try and play the Georgia game. God, dude, this might be the most cursed basketball season of all time. Dear Lord. I'm and God, dude, we got and one mixtape tour. They were 7.5-point dogs. They're 7.5-point dogs, and they're throwing alleys on us, dude. I would give you an NBA assistant and go get Marcus Spears' son. I think I love Marcus Spears too much to bring him to LSU now. This is really, really, really insane that 2 of you heard me that I was on a fast and you sent me like spreads the way that you sent. Let's go on. Nobody wants to watch you watch the game. Well, I was gonna sign off, but a few people asked me to. Sure, I was done. And I also disagree with that. Our viewership of me doing commentary while the game was going on was actually good. But because of Ron, I will sign off. We will be back to doing just football, but I needed to wallow in my sorrows after spending a lot of money to go to the Fayetteville LSU Arkansas game. I thought we were actually going to be decent in men's basketball this year. But now the hot list needs to come out. I know you're joking, Ron. I think I really do think, and I know this is going to piss so many people off. I do think we need to give Tony Bennett a call. All right. And obviously, Verge is already 1 for 1 in hires. We don't know if it's for sure hires, but the process was good in going to get Lane Kiffin. Okay. And I'll still stand by that. But obviously, we need to go get Anthony Guy Bennett. He's only 56. He's been out of coaching for now a couple of years, or he's out of coaching now. And we need to bring a boring style of basketball. He does play a very boring style. And I know that pisses a lot of people off, but I don't care. I just want to win. And I understand a lot of us are going to say, Will Wade, Will Wade. I mean, I'm not against that. But Tony Bennett is out there with his wife, who I believe went to LSU. Okay. And she also played basketball there. I brought this take up a gazillion times. You're telling me Tony's not listening? What would it take? Aiden Childs to Northwestern. I always had it. I said it before. I had a dream last year that Aiden Childs was going to be the heir apparent to Garrett Nussmeier. Damon Williams is a quarterback for Washington. I actually watched him today because he torched Boise State and one of our safeties that we brought in, Ty Benfield. Why are you feeding the post down 9 with a minute left? Why are you going to get quick twos? You're down by 9 with 30 seconds left. Just chunk up threes. At least we're all wearing matching suits or whatever, pullovers. Pegasus 45-40. It's a W. God, just dribble it out. Let them dribble it out. Put us out of our misery. I'm so pissed, dude. I asked Matthew Bruni to not lie to me. And I asked Matthew. I said, Matthew, are we going to make the tournament? Can we make the first 4 in Dayton? And I understand he is going to have the fallback of the injuries with Reed and Thomas not being available. And we had the injuries excuse for many other years. But in 4 years at a Power 4 institution, we need you to make the tournament at least once. Okay? Like Lamont Paris went to the tournament. I mean, why would you? There's 12 seconds left to go in the game and you're down 10. Why are you going to score a quick 2? Why? For your stats? That's the only reason. Blown out on our home floor in front of our QB. 10-game road losing streak, South Carolina. God, dude, this shit has got to stop. This shit has got to stop, dude. I'm so sick of it. I did not go to the John Brady kiddo basketball camps. Wait, what the hell is John Brady doing? What the hell? Johnny Jones, bring someone back other than this. This is unacceptable on so many levels. We are not a basketball school. I will always admit that. I totally get that. We're a baseball school. We're a football school. We can't be an everything school. I know we like to say that, but nobody's an everything school because what's the fun in that? But damn it, you take our all-time starting five, we might take any all-time starting five to school. Okay? I am so sick of this nonsense. Sick of it. Like, we just simply cannot let this go on any further. I swear, if we get blown out again, I want heads to roll. And I get it. I get the injuries. I get it. But damn it, dude. I just can't take it, dude. I can't take it any longer. I just can't take this any longer. I even tweeted it out. I'm so mad, dude. We simply cannot be this bad at men's basketball. I'm sorry. We just simply can't. I'm we can throw a gazillion excuses up. A gazillion. Sick of it. Sick of it. It shouldn't it shouldn't come to this. Yeah, I feel bad. I feel mad. The only reason I kind of shifted to it is, you know, someone told me Lane was at the game. And so I just started refreshing Twitter. Just a sad, sad, sad thing. I simply would not have taken him to the game. Mm. All right, Al. We'll talk to you soon. Once again, big thanks to our big partners at Laporte Therapy and LaporteTherapy.com. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Tonight. Oh, yeah, we're doing nothing. Actually, my fast ends in 2 hours, so I might have some bone broth. That's what they say you should take. Big thanks to our supers. Dreamless, Jay Addison, and King MJ. Welcome. Tonight we are doing, I don't know, and William as well with the super chats. Let's go.